Yeah, the voice is not clean as intended. I don't know why, because something wrong with my mic. But anyway, let's go further. Okay. So guys, actually nothing too much specific to discuss today apart from your questions. So, but in any way, let's have a look at what we have right now. So first of all, the current assignment, uh, which is the project management task, has been added to the RS app. So it should be available from the scores table. Next one. So since the core GS interview has already passed, we have to expel some of the students that haven't passed that interview. But in case if you passed it, you had the interview with the mentor, but you see that you've been expelled from the course, so please let us know so that we could help to resolve the issue. Perhaps a mentor could simply forget to put the score on the table, and you might be expelled by mistake. So please let me know in case if you encounter such issue, and we could help you here. Okay, in terms of the current task, I do see that you started asking me questions, so that's really great. But anyway, I would still encourage you one more time to ask everything that bothers you at the current moment. So it could be the task related question or Angular, or maybe you have zero idea how to come up with some solution which seems to your mentor quite difficult or unresolvable since he doesn't have Angular background. So still, please ask me, ping me in DM or tag me, try to reach me by any means whenever you have something unclear in terms of task or Angular, or maybe you need to have some tip on how to come up and solve your problem. So please do not be shy and try to reach me as soon as you encounter a problem so that we could come up with the solution. And during our Q&As, you can also highlight the not only organizational questions, but as well the Angular specific or task specific, so that we could take a look shortly. So, well, in terms of our schedule, we do have last Angular topics for the current week to review. Also, encouraged to pay attention to them. And one more maybe addition here. So for the current week, we planned that you accomplish forms and unit testing. Just a couple of notes here. Well, firstly, let's check whether I added. Yeah, I added the video here where I conducted the workshop with unit tests, so it could be helpful. In terms of forms, just a little note here. So here mostly I described two types of forms in Angular. These are template driven and reactive. So that would be great if you will start using the reactive forms in your Angular application, because it's widely used and it helps you to build more complex logic around forms in terms of validation and submission of the content. So yeah, just a small hint here. And a couple of notes in terms of project management. So I don't know whether you still encounter problem with the backend, but I was talking to someone of you, and let's just recap what types of questions are received. So first of all, here you see some steps how to connect with MongoDB. So that's basically the database that is connected to your backend. So to make the request and to save the data to MongoDB means that you will make the request to the backend that is served on your local host, right? There is no direct request to the MongoDB because your backend represents a single interface for communication and getting data from the database. Secondly, whenever you work with the request, such as to create a board, column, or task, or whatsoever, all these requests requires a user authentication token, which means that to use such request, you need to register a new user on your backend using sign up for making this request for user creation, and you will take the token in return. So I barely recall whether I already showed you, but it's basically about passing the token in the header called authorization. Just quickly recap. So just we eliminate such question. So basically, you will need to set the following header to your application whenever you perform sign in or sign up. You will get the token in return. So that after you do so, you simply need to store this token in your local storage and then start making requests with the authorization header. And possibly you already know how to do that, but just in case you don't really understand. So whenever you receive the token, you just place this in your local storage. And then when you make the request, instead of like modifying the header each time, most likely you want to use the HTTP interception mechanism. That will make the logic for you. Okay, so that was the general ones. As for the material, whenever you use Angular material, so actually there are no any restrictions in terms of how you're going to customize the components. So you could do it by any means, either by customizing a theme, for instance. So in the documentation, there is the page called theming, and to do so, you need to enable SCSS support for the Angular app, or simply whenever you just generate the application using NGCLI, so you just need to specify that you want to use SCSS or Sass for further styles implementation. So here you could get acquainted with this theming in the material, but for simplicity, in order not to waste the time on getting deeper into material mechanism, you can simply introduce variables for your global Sass variables for making components, customizing styles. But here, for your reference, if you find that you want to make easier to maintain. Well, so actually, as I told previously, we do not have much of the topics for today. So I believe we could jump into your questions. First, please clarify, should we make an app with the same functionality as in the provided video example? Basically, yes. And also please notice the task requirements, since the task will be evaluated using the description. But basically, whatever is presented a couple of Q&As ago, that's actually our goal. There are some confusing items in the task requirements. For instance, global search for a task by task number, name, user assigned to it, and by text of the task description. Confusing is user assigned to it. The backend supports assigning users, but is it in the task? So I know that the backend has some extra functionality because the backend was implemented not for the task, the further front-end task completion. So it actually was taken from the one of the Node.js courses, which is used for our purposes. I would say so. Use and implement only such things, such functionality that is described and the requirements, and please do not make anything else. Oh, for sure, it's up to you in case if you have free time, but I'm pretty sure that you don't have any space for making an extra functionality, since Angular is quite complex. But at the same time, please do the application based on the technical requirements that we have on that page with the project management system description. Okay, so I hope I answered it. So let's move on. Please go ahead and ask whatever bothers you and say you want to know more.
Hello guys, hello Pavel, hello Anna. I have a question. Hello, I'm actually a React developer, but the final task should be done in Angular, but I haven't started yet. I have a question for you. If you say from your personal experience, is it possible to learn Angular and do this project in 2 weeks? It's my question.
So if so, the question is, whenever you is it possible to do the application in 2 weeks if you have production experience in Angular? Is it correct?
Yeah, and is it possible to learn Angular from scratch in 2 weeks also?
Well, that's barely achievable, I would say, to spend just 2 weeks for learning Angular from scratch. Because it's a way more complex than React and it has more building blocks to learn. And the experience of conducting the Angular courses shows that even 1 month is not sufficient for knowing the Angular for in depth, right? So for sure you can make your focus on the basic stuff, like using building blocks to build components, making services, making requests. But if you want to make the project, the structure maintainable and easy to read, so most likely you need to know deeper the details. And having like a month or months and a half, it's like barely the limit of learning the Angular features. So that's why 2 weeks for learning from scratch, to my mind, is insufficient.
Wow. Because I'm also interested in Angular. Why am I asking this question? Because if I can't make it, I better not start. And then I will try some to learn Angular. And thanks, Pavel.
Well, that's already, we already started covering that topic starting from the past month. So if you're interested, that's it was already started. So I don't think that. So okay, everything is possible. Yeah, this is criteria for finishing. That's exactly course to accomplish Angular topics, to implement the project management system using Angular. So that's the entire point for completing this entire course that lasts for a couple of months. So not sure in your case that you described. I would say that would be great to do as much as you can, even though you have not too much time, right? It's better to accomplish at least something, to prepare some of the areas. So that's not necessary to implement everything that is described, right? So do whatever you can in these 2 weeks, because it's better to have something completed before the deadline than having nothing. So that will count as the task has been failed, which could influence in further certificate obtainment.
Thanks, Pavel, for the useful information.
Okay, you're welcome. Great. Any other topics? Okay, Doug, please go ahead. Can dark mode be considered as a feature? Yeah, sure. So you mean the feature that is not described in the task requirements? Yeah, it could be. Okay. So please, whenever you have any questions, feel free to unmute and to ask something. I see the raised hand, but we cannot hear you, Dave.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. I just want to ask about the drag and drop. How to control the current project? Like I drag one item from this project to another, and how to control the current project and the previous project. Like I can save the backend, the current project, but I can't save the previous one. So.
Whenever you say so, just to put it simply, you are trying to drag and drop a task from one column to another, or what you're trying to achieve?
Yeah, exactly. From one column to another column. From
one. Okay, so whenever you make a request to update not barely remember the data structure and the request, but maybe that will be a good point to check whether if you update the current task to assign it to another column, so perhaps the previous column will be updated as well. So have you tried this?
I try to update the current one. It updated to the backend, but the previous one, no, it doesn't update.
Okay, so does that mean that whenever you update the current column, the previous is not updated whenever you make the request?
Yeah.
Well, so looks like that's some sort of backend hasn't implemented such thing. So most likely you will have to find a way to make two requests for the current and to the previous one using the data that you just retrieved. So possibly you want to okay, so firstly, whenever you start dragging the item, you can refer to the item that is about to be dropped somewhere and store the item, which is you're dragging right now, okay? By that, I mean that you most likely can take the data from which column to which you're dropping that item, right? And based on that data, you can make two requests.
Okay, I try.
Yeah, and please, and that's for everyone. So, in case if you still encounter some problems with accomplishing some of the features and you're running out of ideas, so please do not be shy. Do not hesitate to contact me directly. We could come up with it together.
Okay.
Okay.
But like it takes a week to get your reply. Yeah.
I'm trying to do that as soon as I can, and unfortunately, I also have a busy workload. But I'm trying to do so as soon as I can. But yes, yeah. Currently, I'm replying, not immediately, but as soon as I'm getting free at the same time. So well, yeah. And anyway, please text me and I will get back at least for evening.
Okay. Just last time I have to wait a week to get a reply. So that's okay.
Well, most likely I accidentally read your message and it got lost in other messages that's I've just received. So usually I'm not marking them as read to get back to them later on. So possibly that's the issue.
Okay.
Good. Are there any other topics? If no, okay, then
question about the editing part, like how to edit how to edit a board, for example, for edit a project without using the dialogue. We have to using the dialogue, the model.
So if it's stated explicitly that the dialogues need to be used, then yes.
Yeah.
If no, so you can use any possible ways to achieve that by either creating a route that would accept the ID, or it could be a dialogue. So pay attention to the requirements. So basically what I recall is the dialogues are intended for confirmation, but not for the form itself. So you can use any way that suits best for you. It could be either modal dialogue or a separate route for entering the data.
Okay.
Great. If there are no any other topics, I believe we're good to finish. So yeah, please let know in case if anything bothers you in private, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. So thanks everybody for your attention. Have a good week and talk to you later.
Thank you. Goodbye.